Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. I apologize for the delay. I was having a bit of an audio challenge, and I wanted to make sure that y'all could hear me. I'm still 99% sure, not 100% sure that y'all could hear me. Let me check these levels one more time. Nope. Oh, yeah. No, y'all. We good. We good now. Thankfully. Welcome to Night School again. My name is Marc Lamont Hill. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all every single night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. We hold Night School where we break down the most intense debates, the most controversial conversations, the most intensely entrenched disagreements. We do an archaeology of ideas, and we talk about the hottest stories going on in the world today. Basically, we don't want to do cable news. We don't want to do flashy podcasts. We want to have a global classroom. No superficial talking points, no drive-by analysis here. Only intellectual deep dives. And that's why we have such an extraordinary community of people here with us. If you're part of the community for the first time, hit present. Matter of fact, everybody here, hit present. I want y'all to hit present in the comment well. Let us know that you're here, and also tell us what city you're in here from. Tell us what state and or country you're in here from, because this is a global classroom and people here are all over the world in their representation. So we ain't gonna be here, like I said last night, even though we ended up being here for like an hour and a half. We ain't gonna be here for a long time, but we're gonna have a good time, y'all. We're gonna break down some of the most important issues in the world today. And the first one is a very serious one. It's one that I have been committed to covering, and it's one that we have to continue to cover. And that is the story of Sonya Massey. If you're not familiar with the story of Sonya Massey, she was a Black woman who was shot dead by Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson, And we've seen the video. We've seen her be unarmed. We've seen her clearly be in distress. We've seen her clearly not pose any kind of immediate physical threat to the officer. No one who watched that video, except for Donald Trump, seemed to think that the officer did anything close to appropriate action in that setting, in that context. And all of the statements, all of the family members, all of the analysis, all the outside analysis, all of the legal experts, all the behavioral health experts, they can all see that this is a woman who needed mental health support, but also was not posing an immediate threat. She wasn't holding a weapon. She wasn't holding a gun. Yes, there was hot water nearby, but she wasn't in a position to do harm to the officers. And yet that became the officer's excuse. And you could see in the video that they were claiming one thing and doing another. You could see that there was a kind of effort to, how can I put it? There was an effort to almost cover up, not almost, to cover up what had happened or to misrepresent what happened. There was a callousness. There was a darkness in their worldview. And I don't mean darkness in a positive way, and I usually do. I mean it in the sense that they were cynical in their treatment of her and cruel in their handling of her life. And so we've been talking about it. We've been protesting. We've been calling for justice for Sonya Massey for a long time. And now new footage has come out, just released, that shows her earlier that day. And I think the video from earlier that day is just as important for two reasons. And I'll tell you what those two reasons are after you watch the video. But here, I'm pulling the video up now. I'm producerless tonight, y'all, so please understand if it look a little janky, don't blame my team, blame me. You know what I'm saying? But here we go. Anyway, here's a clip of the video of her talking to police earlier that day.
Well, we said we could get you in touch with some more help, right?
I got some help. They gave it to me. I got it. I got it, y'all. I promise. I got everything I need. Just need to go do it.
Are you going to head over to Helping Hands today?
I'm going to call them. Yep.
Oh, they're open. You can probably just go over there.
Yeah. And you got your medication?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'm taking it. I wish I could find it so y'all can see when I took it last.
We believe you.
And when I eat, I'm going to take my medicine.
That's
I couldn't
good.
even sleep a few nights. I almost went to the room. But I knew I needed it for my license. I threw away all my food. My kids and us need food. I don't know where they at. I think they hurt my dad.
No, they're at their dad's house. They're worried about you too. Everybody just wants you to be okay. That's all it is.
I thought they hurt my dad.
Everybody just wants you to be okay. That's what the police said. And to be clear, these are different police officers than the ones who would be part of her death sequence later that night. And that's why the video is so telling. In this incident, the police were talking to her. They were treating her like a human being. They were reassuring her that her family just wanted her to get help. You also notice, or you may not have noticed, behavioral health specialists were on the scene, and they talked to Massey before allowing her to drive off. This is the exact opposite of what would happen just 16 hours later, again, when Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson, someone with a history of violence, a history of aggression toward women, was allowed to keep walking around, keep patrolling, keep rocking that badge, and ultimately was given the opportunity, given his position as an officer, to kill this unarmed Black woman. This new footage is important for multiple reasons. One, it's a reminder that this woman was not well. It's a reminder that she needed mental health support, but that, again, she was posing no violent threat. The same lack of a violent threat that she presented earlier in the day on video, we could clearly see she posed that same non-threat later in the day. She was harmless. And the fact that this next set of officers were able to treat her as such shows that it was not impossible to engage her. These officers could have said, oh, she was going to use the car as a weapon. Oh, she was going to make a break for it. You know, there's always a reason to make someone seem like they are a lethal threat if that's what you're into, if that's the type time you're on. But that isn't what these officers did. And I'm not here to praise these particular officers. They did their job. And as an abolitionist, I will talk in a second about that. Their job itself needs to be rendered obsolete. Their job shouldn't be a job. But to the extent that police are forced in these situations, this is how you handle it. You see, because of our nation's obsession, our appetite for incarceration, our carceral desire, we have committed to treating every single problem through carceral logics. In other words, as they say, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every object is going to look like a nail. If the only way we know how to respond to problems is through carceral solutions and through carcerality, then everything is going to be criminalized. Everything is going to be punished. Everything is going to be responded to with containment and blame and aggression and repression, as opposed to wholeness and healing and restoration and investment and care. And this becomes part of the problem. And if you are a so-called, I don't even say so-called, if you are a well-intentioned cop, and there are police officers out there who are well-intentioned. There are police officers out there who genuinely just want to keep the public safe, who genuinely just want to leave the community better. The problem is you've been placed into a system that does not allow that. It's fascinating. We live in a society that does not allow you to say, you know, that policing is broken. And they always want you to focus on the good cop. But they have no problem telling you that the educational system is dysfunctional. They have no problem telling you that public education sucks. And when you say, well, my mom's a teacher, I say, oh, well, your mom's a good lady in a bad system. But somehow we can't accept that policing functions similarly. But anyway, so if you are a good officer, if you do have good intentions, if you do wake up every day not intending to do harm, you're still placed in an impossible set of circumstances because the system is designed to make you an enforcer, to make you a repressor, to make you someone who escalates rather than de-escalates. The reason that situation we just saw on video was not escalated, the reason why it didn't turn into a crisis was because there was because the police didn't come their guns drawn. You don't have to start there. But also because there were behavioral health specialists there. Police are not trained to be mental health advocates. They're not trained to be therapists. They're not trained to do crisis intervention at the level of a trained psychologist. They're not trained to do drug addiction interventions. They're not trained to do these things. But what ends up happening is, in a society that makes its money off the exploitation and incarceration of the vulnerable population, there's big money in carceral solutions, and the police become tax collectors. That's why they walk through Ferguson, Missouri, stopping people like Mike Brown for jaywalking. That's why they're enforcing all these traffic tickets, is because the cities and the states need money, and the political economy of policing is such that, you know, locking people up is big business. And so police are put in situations that they could never possibly solve properly. What are you going to do? What are you going to do in a situation where someone's having a mental health breakdown and they're wielding a knife? All police officers got a gun, and so they're going to use their gun against your knife. But what happens if we live in a society that invests in mental health so that the person doesn't get to the point where they're walking through the streets wielding a knife? And what does it mean to have the proper institutions in our society so that when somebody is having a mental health crisis, I mean, Sonya Massey's family, like he said, the police officer knew that her family cared about her and wanted her to be okay and was looking out for her. Problem is, even the families who love her don't have anybody to call sometimes except for the police. And nobody wants to call the police on their baby. So this new information, this new video, is evidence that the police in the particular case that would happen 16 hours later, the particular incident that would happen 16 hours later, that they could have done something different. It further spotlights their culpability and the disgusting way that they handled Sonya Massey, her life, her body, the cover-up, the lies, dishonesty, the disregard, all of it. But beyond this case, this new video shows us that it's possible to reimagine the relationship between the vulnerable and the state. It doesn't mean we get warm and fuzzy cops. It doesn't mean that we make all cops get a master's degree in drug counseling or psychology, because one, they're not prepared or trained for that. But two, that still leaves policing as the fundamental mechanism for solving our problems. You can't arrest your way out of problems. You can't arrest your way out of poverty. You can't arrest your way out of drug addiction. You can't arrest your way out of rape culture. We need a revolution. We need a radical reshaping of our system and our structures. And that can't happen with policing in place. Just a reminder from the abolitionists in the room. All right, y'all, we're going to take a quick break. We come right back. We're going to talk about, it seems like every night Donald Trump does something else ridiculous. And some days Netanyahu is doing something ridiculous. And a lot of days they're doing it together. Tonight's one of those nights. I'll tell you about it on the other side of this break. Welcome back to Night School, family. It's so good to see everybody. I want to shout out everybody again who has been riding with us lately. Some of y'all been riding since October. Y'all been here on the channel since October. You've been doing Night School since we started 3 or 4 months ago. And it's been a pleasure to have you here. I just want to shout out some of y'all amazing people here in the community, including people who just recently joined. But I want to shout out Boaz, Kim Music. I want to shout out Sabrina E. I want to shout out Kismet J. I want to shout out Rolando DD, Sahura 67. I love y'all, appreciate y'all. James Harvey's another one who always comes through. Karen D is one of our OGs for sure. Rachel's in the building as well. And Annis L, shout out to you. And I love that so many of you are shouting out Sonya Massey, including my family over here, Kime Oyade Acosta. Thank you, brother. There's so much love and energy in this room. There's so much care in this room and so much intellectual inquiry in this room. And what I love about y'all, what I love about night school is that the inquiry and the love is not for its own sake. It's in the interest of justice. Everybody here, not everybody, but a lot of people here, the people who I'm in conversation and community with here, y'all want to build a world that's better than the one we have right now. And that's why we love you. But to do that work, we got to fight. We got to organize. We got to talk. We got to build. So shout out to y'all for consistently being invested in doing that kind of work. I want to talk about Netanyahu. It's no surprises here when we talk about Benjamin Netanyahu. There's absolutely no surprises. We know what he's about, but sometimes your suspicions about somebody can prove wrong, and sometimes they can prove true. And with Netanyahu, they have once again proven true. A coalition source inside of the Netanyahu government has blown the whistle on Netanyahu, exposing his true intentions. What am I talking about? Well, the source told Haaretz that Bibi decided weeks ago that he didn't want a deal. Everybody's waiting for a hostage deal. Everybody's waiting for a ceasefire deal. Turns out, according to sources, he doesn't want one. Never wanted one. Surprise. When they were getting close to reaching a deal, Netanyahu torpedoed the deal by using the Philadelphia corridor. Y'all saw that last night right here on the show, him with his little pointer stick and the map talking about how he would never surrender that and always keep a military presence there, and how somehow now magically that's a irrevocable part of the deal because Hamas is just flooding the streets from that. Come on. Knock it off. According to the sources, the hostages were never a concern. He was not primarily thinking about their fate. The source goes on to say the media fell for this spin and consumed it all day long. Netanyahu's government is, quote, bound to one another for their political survival. An endless war serves him best. Now, before we get to the next part of this, I just want to point out that what this Haaretz source has said, what this Netanyahu government insider has said is exactly what I've been telling you right here on Night School for literally months. What have I told y'all? I have told y'all that Donald Trump ain't the biggest and baddest fascist on the planet. He ain't the biggest liar in the room. He ain't the chief manipulator in the global community. Donald Trump's up there, but we got a whole bunch of others. You got Bolsonaro, you got Modi, and we can't exclude Netanyahu from that crowd and from that community of people. And what's happening right now is proof positive of it. I told y'all that Netanyahu didn't want a ceasefire, that he didn't want to end the war, that he didn't want the hostages returned. I told you that when he torpedoed the deal. Remember when they were close to a ceasefire deal and then he decided that he had to invade Rafah? Or remember when they were about to close the deal and he said, well, even if we close the deal, I'm still going to keep fighting to kill Hamas. I mean, he basically has said, even if there's a deal, there's no deal. And he does this to keep the energy and the pressure going. He does this so that the world stays in a space of chaos. And from that space of chaos, Netanyahu stays in power. See, if Netanyahu leaves office, as I tell you almost every night now, if he ends the war, the so-called war, which is really a genocide, if he leaves the war, he's out of office. And if he's out of office, he's in jail. So he's going to invoke a doctrine of permanent war, a doctrine of permanent war. I've been telling y'all that the whole time. People say I'm being hyperbolic, I'm being conspiratorial. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just hating on Netanyahu. Nah, fam. What I told you was the God's honest truth. And now that it's being reiterated and echoed and confirmed by members of his society. Maybe you'll listen to your boy the first time next time. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But there's another piece to this. And that piece came out today in the New York Times. Columnist Thomas Friedman asserts that there is another reason that Netanyahu is dragging out the assault on Gaza. And that reason is to help Donald Trump take over the White House. Netanyahu, you see, sees Trump as key to his political survival, according to Friedman. In his piece, Friedman says, actually, he gives a warning to Kamala Harris. He says, quote, Madam Vice President, have no doubt this will lead him to do things in the next 2 months that could seriously harm your election chances and strengthen Donald Trump's chances. Be afraid. He calls the whole thing a fraud, Friedman does. He says, Netanyahu knows that Kamala Harris is in a difficult position when it comes to Israel. He says, if Netanyahu continues the war in Gaza until, quote, total victory with more civilian casualties, he will force Harris to either publicly criticize him and lose Jewish votes or bite her tongue and lose Arab and Muslim American votes in the key state of Michigan. Friedman's exactly right. Kamala Harris is being backed into an impossible set of circumstances. She is being made into, I won't say pawn because I don't want to reduce her agency, but Netanyahu knows what he's doing and he's not playing fair. He's not a neutral arbiter any more than the United States is a neutral arbiter on Israel-Palestine. Netanyahu has a vested interest in seeing the bromance with Trump continue for another 4 years. And so he's going to intervene in a very particular way. And Friedman laid it out perfectly. He's going to keep the pressure on. He's going to force Kamala Harris to have to denounce Israel's actions or be complicit, pissing somebody off one way or the other. But while Friedman is correct on that piece, what we can't do, what we must not do, is let Kamala Harris off the hook or concede within the logic of Friedman's argument that this isn't there's no viable, logical, reasonable, winnable strategy here. There is. Call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Have a weapons embargo. You see, while people think that that's pulling her to the left and making her less electable, I happen to believe that if Kamala Harris actually engages in a ceasefire, if she actually can force a ceasefire or at least demand one, she can't stop Netanyahu, certainly not before the election. Even if the U.S. took away every dollar right now and didn't send another weapon right now, Netanyahu could easily continue into November, December with this genocidal war. So Kamala Harris can't stop it before the election, but she can make a very clear and principled stand that she will not contribute to a genocide. That's a more electable position among the left. Yeah, you may lose some Jewish votes ultimately, but you'll gain a whole bunch more as well. And beyond votes and the calculation and the technocratic logics, you can just do the right thing. So while I agree with Thomas Friedman that Kamala Harris is being placed in an impossible and unfair circumstance by Netanyahu, who is manipulating the situation, is putting his thumb on the scale of the American electoral process. And Trump is complicit in that as well. He might even be violating some laws. We'll talk about that another time. It doesn't change the fact that Kamala Harris is faced with a very clear, unambiguous moral dilemma. And she has to do the right thing no matter what the outcome is, just as we all do. That's the real issue here. Anyway, y'all, we're gonna take another quick break and we come back. Something a little bit different I want to talk to y'all about. It's a little light, it's a little silly. I hope the white people don't get mad at me. Stay here. All right, family, welcome back to Night School. So there has been so much conversation in the last week or two about reparations, and we've had several reparations guests on in the last few months. We've had one on this week. We've had several reparations subjects this week. I am excited to say that we're going to continue to apply that pressure, not just for the California races, not just for the California grassroots political movements, but we want to do this around the country. So all of you who are engaged in, reparations actions, reparations demands, reparations work in your respective cities, I ask you to let me know. Send me a note. Let me know so we can highlight that work. Also, let me know what guests you want to bring on here. You often talk about who y'all want for Palestine and who y'all want for American, sort of leftist politics around, anti-capitalist actions or environmental justice. Who do you want to see about reparations? What conversation or what debates do you want to see happen? Let me know so we can keep it all going in. All right. So now I got to talk to y'all about something else. This is not a big deal, but it's an interesting deal, and I hope y'all peep it, right? Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn. Y'all remember her? Y'all should remember Rachel Gunn. She is an interesting one. I'm gonna show y'all a little something. Y'all see her right here. Y'all see her right here. This is Rachel Gunn. Look at her. If y'all didn't catch all that, the magic of it, let me hit rewind for you. She was at the Olympics doing the breakdancing competition, and after she performed, the breakdance community was in an uproar. They gave her a lot of backlash for these slick moves you're looking at right now here on the YouTubes. I am fascinated that she made it into the Olympics. But anyway, Rachel Gunn, also known as Raygun, made an announcement today. She apologized for her controversial performance at the Olympics last month. And she said that she knew that her style of dance will be hard to understand. But she also said that she won't be participating in any breakdancing competitions for a long time. She qualified for the Paris Games by winning the Oceania Championships. Are y'all familiar with the Oceania Championships? I am not, but I just have to ask, who did you compete against that you were the best one? Where did you go where those moves beasted somebody else's moves? She said she was super nervous. She said she knew she couldn't win, but I get it. You want to be in the Olympics. You get invited to the Olympics. Somebody dumb enough to bring you out to the Olympics, you show up. Well, this woman, 37 years old, certainly young enough to do this well, earned 0 points in her battles against the United States, France, and Lithuania. And she lost 18-0 in all 3 rounds. I don't know how breakdancing is scored in the Olympics. I think the idea of Olympic breakdancing is somewhat ridiculous, to be honest. I'm not convinced it's a sport. I'm not convinced it needs to be in the Olympics. You can persuade me. You can tell me I'm wrong. I don't see it. But when I watch this, I'm like, yeah, you needed to apologize. You needed to apologize to the hip hop community. You needed to apologize to all those B-boys and B-girls that made their living and made their lives, not their living financially, but made their lives creating an art form that is now being exploited, extracted, misrepresented, and thrown away, which moves like this. I hope we learned a lesson from this. I don't think we have, but I hope we learned a lesson. Everything don't need to be for public spectacle. Everything don't need to be in the Olympics. Again, if y'all can explain to me why breakdance is in the Olympics at all in the first place, I'd be happy to understand. I'd be happy to learn. Because right now it don't make a hill of beans of sense to me. And again, there are amazing breakdancers in Brazil. There are amazing breakdancers in Korea, Japan, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, the United States, of course. I'm not saying there aren't people who wouldn't kill it. I'm just saying, why does that stuff always have to be in the Smithsonian? Why does that stuff always have to be at the Olympics? Why does that have to be the badge of approval? But also, if it's going to be, then yeah, it can't be people who do this. Everybody at home is watching this like, yo, I could do that, right? If you're watching somebody at the Olympics and you go, yeah, I could do that, and not in that delusional way where you think you could, bench press 2,000 pounds or dunk on the whole, Australian basketball team or whatever. I get it, right? Some of y'all are delusional, but most of y'all can do this. And that's not because y'all are such good dancers or that you're not good dancers. It just means that she sucks. And that can't be this can't be the measure. So I'm glad she apologized, but I'm not sure she understands why she's apologizing. It feels like she's almost apologizing for bad performance when I need her to apologize for appropriation. Again, white people can do hip hop, but this ain't white people doing hip hop. This is, I don't even know what this is, yo. I don't know, but I wanted to stop. I needed to stop. So apology, not quite accepted. Come back again another time. You heard? All right, family. One last break, one last timeout. We're gonna come back because I gotta talk about this dude, man. I guess I gotta talk about two people, but you'll see on the other side. Welcome back to Night School. You know, don't nobody love white people more than black people. I swear to God, there are moments where white people even be minding their own business. They don't even ask Negroes to jump in and cape for them. And black people do it anyway. We just jump on in. As Ralph Abernathy used to tell Martin Luther King, you know, scratching when we don't itch and laughing when we are not tickled. You know, and I don't think that everybody who does this is Uncle Tom. I don't do that racial attack stuff 99.9% of the time. It's not that. It's just sometimes, y'all, black people, we could say nothing, but we have to jump in. And black men, I find too often, some of us just need to cape for these white women. Now, look, we should stand up for humanity. We should be honest. We should be principled. We should be morally consistent. All of that, yada, 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 all true. But sometimes, y'all go out y'all way to jump in front of the moving bus, to jump in front of the truck for white women who wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire. Now, I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. Just the other day, Charles Barkley went on Bill Simmons' podcast, and apparently he has a bone to pick with the players of the WNBA. And is he mad at them for what? What's the issue? What's his outrage about the WNBA? Is he outraged that the league doesn't give them enough resources, enough money? Is he not worried? Is he worried they don't get enough television appearances? Is he worried that we haven't put a developmental pipeline sufficiently entrenched in communities so that we have new generations of girls playing hoops? Have we not raised the salaries enough so that, you know, women NBA players, WNBA players can don't have to go overseas and risk their lives like we saw Brittany Griner do in Russia? I mean, these are conversations we could have. You could stand up and fight for how these women are disrespected, all the things. But no. Charles Barkley got a bone to pick with the women in the WNBA, and you will be shocked to know that his beef is in defense, not of the 99, I ain't gonna say 99, of the overwhelming majority of Black women who were in the league. No. The Chuckster is defending Ms. Caitlin Clark. Listen to this.
These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan, they cannot have this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried. These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan, they cannot have this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried. People believe what we say on television. Just because people don't like you or your personality, they can't get on TV and slander you. It's just total bullshit. This girl is incredible. The number of attention, eyeballs she's brought to college and the pros, and for these women to have this petty jealousness, you say to yourself, damn, what is going on here? And the thing I love about her, she never says a word. But these ladies, who I love and respect their game, they couldn't have this thing up any worse. There's been so much negativity, and a lot of it is just petty jealousness. These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan.
So that's your boy Charles Barkley saying how badly these WNBA women have just bungled the Caitlin Clark affair. Let me say a couple of things. First, I like Charles Barkley. I love Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was my favorite player growing up. I think he's a great TV analyst, and I think he's right a lot more than people give him credit for. But when it comes to racial politics, sometimes Charles puts a little too much dip on his chip, and he be off base. First of all, you have to recognize the racial dynamics of any WNBA conversation. The they, who he's saying F this thing up, the they in his conversation is the Black women. And this thing is the gift of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark has come and brought all this money and all this attention and all these eyeballs, and she's revolutionized the sport, and y'all should just be grateful. Now, look, Caitlin Clark is an extraordinary player. I think she's a generational talent. I've been saying that since she was in college. I am a huge Caitlin Clark fan. That ain't the issue. Caitlin Clark may just change the way WNBA basketball is played. She's certainly already stretching the floor and playing a style of basketball that will make the WNBA more watchable, even though she has ridiculously high turnovers and needs to settle in to really and have better shot selection and a little more discipline so that she can become the best player she can become. But that said, Caitlin Clark is a phenomenal rookie who should win Rookie of the Year. I know some of y'all love Angel Reese. I love Angel Reese. I look at Angel Reese like a proud father, man. She's so dope, and watching her break these rebounding records is amazing. But Caitlin Clark is the Rookie of the Year, y'all. But then some of y'all out here talking about she should be in the MVP conversation. Stop. We don't have to do this. We don't have to add extra stuff. And, you know, Charles Barkley's conversation is about somehow Caitlin Clark being unfairly treated. They're hating on her. They're jealous of her. The women in the WNBA are not jealous of her. They're not hating on her. I think some have rightly expressed a certain kind of concern and criticism that people act like she's the only person on the floor or that she's the only talented young player. There's at least 5 incredible WNBA rookies right now who deserve to be watched. There are a whole, we just saw that in the Olympics. I know the Olympic Women's Championship was a nail biter, but there was a whole team of people not named Caitlin Clark who showed the world that women's basketball from the United States is still the best product in the world, even if, you know, they had a close call. So there are people who are just who are just tired of hearing Caitlin Clark all the time. There are veteran players, Diana Taurasi, for example, you know, who might be tired of being asked about her every time. What's it like to play against Caitlin Clark? No, Caitlin Clark, what's it like to play against Diana Taurasi? That's the question. There are players who are playing her tough because that's what you do. But now all of a sudden they're acting like anybody who gives a physical contact or throws an elbow or gives a hard foul to Caitlin Clark is a bully. We've heard people literally use the language of assault and battery, talking about locking people up for fouling Caitlin Clark too hard. This is the ridiculousness of it all. And men who never comment on the WNBA or who rarely comment on the WNBA now feel that the first time they're going to comment on this sport that has been built, or this league that has been built on the backs of Black women, they now feel like the only time they can speak up and speak out is to tell these Black women to stop being petty or catty or all these other adjectives that really reinforce stereotypes about women and especially Black women. So we don't need another person caping for Caitlin Clark. And again, you're talking to a Caitlin Clark fan, a huge Caitlin Clark fan. But Caitlin Clark don't need caping for her. She doesn't need to be protected through the chastisement of all the other women in the league who don't look like Caitlin Clark, racially I'm talking about. She doesn't need to be shielded from criticism for being apolitical. She doesn't need to be shielded from criticism for complaining about fouls too much and turning the ball over too much. Every rookie gets scrutinized. Every player gets challenged, and she should not be exceptional. And this idea now that we're supposed to roll the red carpet out for rookies, and if you don't, you're hating and jealous, is ridiculous. Michael Jordan had a little something to do, just a little something to do with the development of the NBA. But as a rookie, even though he was Air Jordan and had these amazing sneakers that were just coming out and was selling and scoring 1 million points and rookie of the year and in the all-star game and all the things, it took years for him to get the reverence from the peer group he was going against. Isaiah and them, Magic and them, Bird and them, they didn't run over and kiss Jordan's ring when he came into the league. Charles Barkley, when you started on the Sixers in 84, you were drafted in 1984. When you started that 84-85 season with Dr. J and Moses Malone, were they kissing your ass? And the people you were playing against, were they giving you hard fouls and throwing you on the ground as you came off the bench? When Shaq came into the league, how'd you welcome him? When Larry Johnson came into the league, even though he had all the acclaim and all the Grandmama TV shows, how did you welcome him, Sir Charles? So why are you expecting these people to do something different than what you did and than what everybody else did? How committed are we to white women? And there's a comment coming here from Adrian that's interesting. It says it's race, but it's also patriarchy. Does someone have to cape for Larry Bird? I mean, you're right. I mean, there were white people who definitely caped for Larry Bird, but there's a very particular way that Caitlin Clark as white woman needs to be protected. There's a very particular way that Caitlin Clark seems to be shielded from criticism by men who feel that it is their responsibility, their duty to keep her on that pedestal. And the thing is, Caitlin Clark ain't asking for it. Caitlin Clark isn't asking people to protect her. She's out here. I mean, she complains a little too much. And like I said, does some things I don't love. But all rookies do. That's not a knock on Caitlin Clark. Again, she's a wonderful player. Let her play. She'll be okay without 15,000 Negroes on Twitter and another 100 on TV jumping to eat bullets for her. While y'all watch Brittany Griner sit in a prison in Russia and not say a mumbling word. I think that's the most frustrating part of all of it. This white woman didn't ask for help, and y'all dying to give it to her. Whereas Black women, you've had Black women with dealing with issues around maternal health. I'm talking in the WNBA, issues around maternal health, around cancer, around tragedy, around loss, gun violence, not to mention literally being kidnapped as a political prisoner in Russia. I mean, like, there's so many things, and y'all didn't say shit. And now all of a sudden, y'all WNBA observers who got to say something about Caitlin Clark and hushing up all the sisters. Come on, man, knock it the blank off. That's all I'm going to say. So look, Charles Barkley, I love you. I do, my brother. I love you. I'm a fan. But you tripping on this one, bro. Leave Caitlin alone. She'll be fine. There's a whole lot of other fish to fry, even if you want to talk about the WNBA. Although I suspect that when Caitlin Clark ain't on the table, y'all ain't gonna have nothing else to say about the WNBA. And I know y'all are gonna say that's the point, right? That she brings all the attention, all the eyeballs, all the critique, all the excitement. She don't have to. Y'all could watch Asia Wilson right now make an impressive run for the MVP of the league. You could watch Chelsea Gray, who I think, by the way, is an incredible player. You could look at I mean, we could go down the list. We could look at Reese. We could look at Boston. You could look at Wilson. You could look at Johnson. You could look at Stewart. We could go down the list of all these players who are just incredible right now. You could look at the gifts that have been presented to us in the WNBA and focus on them. You could look at that USA basketball team. You could look at this All-Star game. You could look at the future of the league. You could look at the kind of winding down of this iteration of the league, and you could say this league is so gifted. Let's celebrate all these people. Or you could just keep talking about Miss Caitlin. Anyway, y'all, thank y'all for watching. Ooh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm about to run around this room. Adrian said Sonya Massey was a damn in the street. You know what? That's actual and factual. If there is a damsel in distress, if there's somebody that really needed to be saved, it was Sonya Massey. Didn't hear y'all talking then. But now Caitlin Clark is in need of some protection from verbal critique, and y'all are losing your mind, jumping out the window. Knock it off. All right. That's all I got to say about that, y'all. I love y'all, family. I love everybody out there. Thank you for watching Night School. Hit that like button if you can. Let them YouTube algorithms know that corporate media ain't the only game in town. Also, hit the subscribe button. So hitting the subscribe button increases our social media footprint, which allows us to get the content out to more people. And of course, if you're so inclined, hit that join button. Become a member of the channel. You have no idea how much we appreciate it. Comments coming in. Chippy here saying 2 months, Professor. Love you, love you, love you. Jazz LP Dallas's finest said, Mark, I don't believe that the police needs to reimagine anything. I believe that their behavior is already realized, only that their realization needs to be implemented when it comes to Black people. I think you might be right. I think that's why I don't want police to reimagine their jobs. I want us to reimagine policing. I want us to imagine a world without policing. How can we solve our problems without them? How can we restore people to a place of wholeness without confining them? How can we move within the logic of abolitionism? That's all I'm thinking about. That's all I want us to be thinking about. Alan Chippy says, Professor's thoughts on Kamala just pandering to independents and conservatives feels very Hillary 2016, watching The View and the conservative lady compared her to Mitt Romney. Ooh. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure Kamala is just pandering to independents and conservatives. I think Kamala Harris is speaking to Black, mainstream, middle-class Black people. I think there might be a sense that they're excited just by her candidacy, and as a captured electorate, they're not making a political demand. But she's definitely appealing to them. I mean, the whole Speechgate the last couple of days has been the way she talks to Black audiences, which I think is fine. I actually like seeing that side of Kamala Harris. But I think she's speaking to Black audiences. I think she's trying to speak to liberals. I just think the bar is very low for liberals on the Middle East. I'm just saying on the Middle East issue. You know, so when she's calling for a ceasefire, of course, ceasefires are empty gestures. Calling for a ceasefire is an empty gesture if you keep sending the money and the weapons and the political cover. But again, if you're talking about who she's quote unquote pandering to, she's speaking to liberals when she calls for a ceasefire. Kamala Harris is standing up calling for unions. She's staying with unions on Labor Day. That's not an independent and conservative argument. I think Kamala Harris is actually running the gamut, speaking to many constituencies. You may not find her arguments persuasive or compelling, but she's absolutely speaking to the people. Now, I think the question is, will she resonate? Hillary Clinton in 2016 didn't resonate. Hillary Clinton in 2016 lost Florida, not because of the Green Party or independence. She lost Florida because she didn't campaign there enough. She lost some of these southern states or these purple states because she took Black votes for granted and they weren't mobilized. They didn't necessarily vote Trump. They just didn't vote for her. And she also underestimated how many people would vote for Trump. And I think we all underestimated white women a little bit. and how many of them would close ranks around their whiteness and not their actual interests. So with all that said, Kamala Harris couldn't go the way of Hillary 2016, or she could win. If the election were today, I think she wins, but we'll find out. Anyway, y'all, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the join button. If you can't do any of that, I need you to hit the share button. Share the content. Let everybody know what you're watching. Let them know that the clips are out there. Let them know the show's out there. You are the best evangelists for the channel and for the shows. I really appreciate y'all. I really love y'all. Shout out to Mario Boris for just becoming a new member. We appreciate that as well. And family, lastly, if you can't make a commitment to become a member of the channel, I do ask that you consider making a one-time payment right now. How about that? Everybody could go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle and make a one-time tuition payment right now for the month. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. If you give $1, we're grateful. If you give $1 million, we're grateful. Anything in between, we're grateful. There's no amount too big, no amount too small. We're asking for the resources to build the channel up. We don't have corporate money. We don't have billionaire checks. We do this with the power of the people. So we ask any amount you can give, we'd be grateful for. But if everybody watching right now were to donate $10, if everybody here were to give at least $10, we'd have the money we need to meet our financial goals for the month, from paying staff to getting new resources, to getting new content, to editors, to investing in a new studio space. We could do all of it with your support. So consider dropping $10 into Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle at a minimum. But again, any amount will do. We're grateful for all of it. We'll see you later. Peace.